guys. We could get started. Great to see you. We're recording. We've made it happen. Oh, you want to sit here?
No. Well, because the plan
we're gonna pass the mic.
So we can feed you.
I just don't want to sit next to the COVID girl.
Oh, I see. All right.
I'm working in Queensland.
I'll be a buffer.
But I'll sit over here.
Okay. All right. No, here you go.
Sit over there if you
Here you go. I'll go. That's all right. You guys stay.
I
We'll just make it work.
sit in the corner off to the outskirts.
Carmen, you COVID-ridden. That's okay. What's a little bit of drama, hey? We'll just make it work. Yeah? Cool. All right. I know, we should. Yeah, we should. Everyone write down their questions now. All right, Liam, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. We got the recording from the lecture. Amazing. All righty. Well, we'll get straight into it then. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to come down, be here in person. We've got heaps of people that were interested, but they were really wanting that Zoom feature. So we've set that up now, so hopefully they'll be jumping online. And Liam will just let us know when the questions come through from the Zoom. So, yeah, we're excited to have everyone here to attend our first Q&A event, and we've invited some very special guests here. But before I get into it, I just wanted to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we work and live, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. And we pay respect to the elders, past, present and emerging here today. So with that said, I'll now introduce our speakers. So we have, starting on the left, we've got Daryl Eckley. So give a big wave to our camera crew audience. Yeah, beautiful. And then we have Nathan Wellington here. Beautiful. And then we've got Nicole Liddell and Carmen Buss. So we've got some very special guests and very experienced in their fields. And we've got a few pre-prepared questions, but if you guys have any questions, well, there'll be an opportunity at the end to ask, and then Liam will be monitoring the chat for questions as well. So, yep, big round of applause for our speakers here today, and we'll get straight into it. And our speakers all actually attended university here. So they're UniSC students, just recently finishing up their studies or starting their extended studies. So they know a lot about USC. Alrighty, so what we're going to do now is just start with a brief introduction about each of our speakers. So our speakers have sent us a little bit of a blurb about them, you know, things that they got up to in their degree and kind of what they're doing now. So we'll start, I think Josiah will start with you. Josiah's going to introduce Daryl.
All right. Daryl Eckley is currently completing his second year of clinical masters at USC based at the Thompson Institution. Daryl is currently writing his master's thesis exploring self-determination theory as a framework for predicting depression, anxiety, and anger. During his honours, Daryl completed his thesis on SDT, and my bad. Yeah, I know, but tongue-tied.
My abbreviation, self-determination.
Oh. And the transition to online learning influenced by COVID-19. Throughout his degree, Daryl received training and became an accredited crisis supporter at Lifeline. At the completion of his honours, Daryl was the recipient of the APS Award and a university medal.
Very good. Thank you, Daryl. Okay, so we also next have Carmen Buss on the panel. So I will introduce Carmen. You may have seen her around because she is a university tutor now. So that's why she looks familiar, even though she's got half her face covered. But so Carmen Buss is a recent UniSC Bachelor of Psychology Honours graduate. And upon graduation, Carmen was the recipient of the Chancellor's Medal for her support and service to the university community, a University Medal for Academic Excellence, and the Student Leadership Award. Last year, Carmen presented her honours research on communication and contributing factors to climate change skepticism at the Australasian Council for Undergraduate Research Conference. Carmen is now embarking on a PhD within the field of environmental psychology. Specifically, Carmen will be investigating the role of self-efficacy in individuals' capacity to engage in conversation about pro-environmental behaviours. Carmen currently works at UniSC in two roles, as a tutor for Sci 100 and Sci 101, and as the Undergraduate Research Fellowship Coordinator, an exciting program for undergraduates which is coming soon. Carmen is hoping to pursue a career in academia, balancing her time between teaching and research. Carmen considers herself a lifelong learner and has dedicated a career to make positive societal impact in how we act on climate change. She also enjoys sharing her learning experiences and hopes to inspire others to enjoy the process of learning as much as she has. Between her studies and work, Carmen enjoys spending time with her dog, her partner, and her 75 indoor plants. Carmen is an emerging fan of Catan and karaoke. Having engaged in both twice, she has decided it's her new favourite pastime. Welcome, Carmen. HD.
The third person on our panel today is Nathan Wellington. He's a PhD student and a lab technician at the Thomson Institute with a focus on research into genomic, epigenomic and regulome underpinnings for mental health disorders with the intent to identify pharmacogenomics, biomarkers and personalised medicine. During his time at the University of Sunshine Coast, Nathan has received academic and leadership awards for his efforts and has served on various university boards, including the USC Council representing student interests. In addition to his qualifications and studies, he also owns and operates several IT businesses. Prior to relocating to the Sunshine Coast with his family, Nathan also held many executive positions within large and public companies with extensive professional experience in project management, strategic development, delivering complex workflows, and managing relationships with key stakeholders, industry bodies, and state and federal governments. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. And lastly, joining us on the panel today is Nicole Liddell. So a little bit about Nicole is that Nicole was originally discouraged from attending university when she left school, mostly because she was a girl, but also because it wasn't what was done in her family. Such is the era that Nicole grew up in. Nicole always thought university was for other people and not for her, but always had a keen interest in psychology and human behaviour. At 43, Nicole felt she pretty much hit a proverbial rock bottom, figured she had nothing to lose, so she enrolled in psych at USC. She is now the first in her family to attend university, including her extended family. She's received several merit-based bursaries over the years and has been a crisis supporter at Lifeline for 2.5 years. Nicole has also worked in various positions across the uni in Student Central, Accessibility Services, and has been working as a research assistant at the Centre for Human Factors and Social Technical Systems for 4.5 years. Nicole has just completed her thesis titled Perceived Impacts of Stressful Events on Train Driver Performance. Well done. Nicole is currently taking a break from her studies while she decides on either pursuing a master's or a PhD's. Her ideal career situation would be to remain in research and also work in a clinical capacity, as well as with a trauma focus. A fun fact about Nicole is she knows how to tie up a mud crab. Well, there you go. That's a fun fact. You know what? Do you boys have fun facts that you want to add, or no fun facts? Or serious business? That's okay. Awesome. Well, what we might do now is we're just going to move on to the next section of the Q&A where we're going to ask some pre-selected questions. Just some things that we've put together and that some students have requested that they wanted to know about our panellists. And then we will throw over to the forum. So if there's something that's piqued your interest, hold on to it and we can ask about it later, and Liam will be monitoring the chat. So I reckon, Josiah, you can take the lead on this one.
So whoever feels comfortable answering this, what led you to study psychology? And I'll pass you the mic, whoever wants.
Here you go, you just hold on to this. It's okay, I feel like I've had it 7 times this year. My immunity is so low, I'm going to pick up someone who breathes on me.
I'm guessing the reason we have the microphones is because of the recording, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it's just so that they can hear it.
Okay, so for me, what led me to study psych was I grew up, obviously a lot longer ago than you guys did, but so my mum actually experienced some fairly significant mental health issues, and I always had this kind of belief that people aren't born inherently bad and that behaviour is driven by something, so I'd always kind of wanted to know what that was. And as Beck said, I was pretty much discouraged from going to university when I was a kid because girls don't go to university, so As a single parent, I went, rocket, I'm going to go. And yeah, so psych was always, if I was ever going to go to uni, psych was what I was going to study. So and I have a real dedication, I guess, to people and to helping people manage crises and that kind of thing. So.
Anyone else want to add to that? Or their own story they'd like to say?
Why not? I'll hold the microphone all night. So I came to university. When I came, I was a tennis coach and mountain bike coach. And I came and did a diploma in sports science. And part of that diploma, I did an elective in outdoor education. And part of that elective was studying Tuckman's stages of group development, forming, storming, norming, performing, all that. And that was the turning point for me. I went out in a group to do some outdoor education and saw Tuckman's theory come to life. And I couldn't believe it. It blew me away that there was a theory written in a book that explained the human behaviour that we would see in real life. So for me, that was it. I went, psychology is what I want to study. I want to see more theories and how they play out in real life. So then I changed over. I finished my diploma of sports science, changed over to a degree in psychology honours.
So I started psychology because I wanted to know why we do what we do. So I wanted to sort of get that understanding of the mind and the brain and that sort of thing. So I just figured I'd start doing that part-time, which then turned into sort of a hybrid between part-time and full-time. And so that was the start of first year. And then over that time, I sort of weaved into different areas, which we'll probably go through later.
And I suppose I'll answer, seeing as everyone else did.
It's not a competition, though.
Oh, sorry.
But if it was, I'd win.
It's actually winning at the moment.
Yeah.
We'll take a poll later.
We'll take a poll later, but I'm sure maybe someone's interested in my story, so I'll share it. No, thank you, Nicole. I fell into the role into psychology, not because I was dedicated, that's really where I wanted to go, but mostly I wanted to do something where I was helping in a societal way. So I thought originally, I liked the idea of empowering people that might be disadvantaged in some capacity. And so I went and I did TPP at uni. And like Nicole, I grew up in a very conservative household in Canada where that was just not encouraged as a female to go to university or even think of it. It was play piano for the church and have multiple babies. And I didn't do any of that. I moved to the other side of the world instead. So after all of that, I started TPP, realized I just loved learning. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this new world I've just tapped into? And I felt like I finally belonged for like what was a really long time in my life, felt really insecure of where I was, had no self-esteem, felt like I was just floundering. And I finally fell into a place where I was like, this is it. This is where I belong. And I loved learning. And I was like, why do people learn? How do we learn? How can I do this to make impact? And so that's what led me to actually change my idea was to do a counseling degree and then a teaching degree and then combine them, I don't know, to do something in my head. And what ended up happening is I just loved the process of learning so much. I wanted to do psychology to learn how we learned. And so that's what I did. And I realized that also you could do research in psychology. It wasn't just to become a psychologist. And the moment I figured that out, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a degree in psychology. I'm going to enjoy the process of learning and figure out a way where I can make impact. And from day one, I had the idea in my head that I wasn't going to do clinical. I was going to go and be research focused. And that's where I fell in.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll share this and we'll
Oh,
pass
okay,
it to
yeah.
you, but you guys keep that microphone.
Just touch the top and I'll touch the bottom.
Okay, awesome. Like I said, trust me, I'll walk past someone with COVID, I'll pick it up. So don't even worry. My immunity is very low. Okay, so how did you get more involved working towards the paths you've chosen? So like sometime throughout your degree, things became clear for you? How did you get involved? Like, what were you doing at university?
Okay, I've been given the microphone. So the first year was just testing to see what psychology was all about, and I wanted to understand it a bit more, like what's involved, what I liked, what I didn't like, and I didn't do any of my electives. I figured I'd pick an elective that might be interesting, and after the first year of psychology, I thought I'd try out and have a look at genetics, because every psychology class that I went to, they said, well, 50% of it's genetics, the other 50% is behavioural. And I kept asking, what's the other 50%? What's the genetic side of it? And everyone's like, I don't know. So I figured I'd do a minor in genetics. In doing that, it really gave me a good understanding of the process of psychology, but also the process of molecular biology and that sort of area as well. So doing a minor in that really gave me a great breadth of understanding. It sort of crossed over two disciplines, which I think is a really good way to go, as opposed to these sort of silo disciplines where you just specifically do maybe psychology or specifically molecular biology. It came with its... at the time, no one had ever done that before with psychology and genetics, so there was some hurdles to get over and that sort of thing, but it was really good. So I sort of gravitated towards the genetic side of things, because I sort of want to understand how our environment and our genes sort of affect our decision making and the things that we do.
Could you ask the question again, please?
Yes.
Just want to make sure I stay on track.
So how did you get more involved working towards the path you've chosen? So when things became clear to you, what did you do? Who did you speak to? Did you participate in anything?
Sorry, thanks, Beck. The only thing I can really remember is at some stage, maybe I finished the first year of psychology, and then I went and saw Dr. Kate, and I said, well, what's next, what do I do? And she pointed out to me there that if you do want to become a psychologist, especially a clinical psych, you've got to have plenty of experience, that sort of clinical experience. And the university doesn't give that to you. You have to go out and do that. So that's when I got involved in Lifeline. And I think that was a moment that when you start having those conversations with people on the phone, we talk about, in psychology in general, we talk about strengths-based work, or what's a strength. And it wasn't until after I finished my degree that I actually learned a good definition of what a strength is. So a strength is something that you do a lot, you do it more than other people, it's something that you do well, you do it better than other people, and it's something that when you finish, you get a positive feeling about. Yeah, it doesn't drain you, you're a bit up and excited about that. That's how you decide a strength, if you're looking to see, is this my strength? So working with clients in Lifeline gave me those things, yeah? I really enjoyed it. I believe that I did a really good job. I worked hard at doing a good job. And when I would finish a shift, I would go, wow, that was amazing. Wow, what a privilege. So that's what it was for me.
Similar, like I think very similar for me too, Daryl. Like I did, so I'll get back to the Lifeline, but so I started university just with the idea of I just needed something to get me out of bed every day, and I had not done higher education for such a long time, so I wasn't really looking past the first semester at first. But then I'm a bit like Carmen, I got here and I went, this is where I belong. Like learning is something that I've been craving my whole life and had not been awarded the opportunity to do it, so I just kind of took it by the bull by the horns and just soaked everything up. And I will say that if any of you guys are first year students, engage the student services. So because they will really help you with any academic skills that you need. So first year went by, I got in the groove, I was working at Student Central, still kind of just doing my degree with no real direction. And then a job came up because people were saying, you need to get experience. If you can get some practical client experience as well as research experience, that's the way to go for clinical masters. So a job came up at the Centre for Human Factors and Socio-Technical Systems. Couldn't even say it at first. It's quite a mouthful. Didn't know what it was. Googled the hell out of it because it's quite a complex kind of concept. It is, but it isn't. But basically, it's cognitive ergonomics. So it's how we behave within the systems within which we operate. So, and how we interact with those systems. So, didn't know much about it. Went for the job. Got, casual work there. And I've been there 4.5 years now. And then I started to think, oh, research. Like I didn't even know when I started psychology. I think in my head I had the whole counselling idea, that psychology degree was a counselling degree. Soon realised when I got to second year that research was heavily, a heavy focus of psych. So, and then with human factors, it's like, oh, okay, so we can make a difference from a higher level. So we can, through research of systems and how humans interact, we can make changes to systems to better equip humans or to suit humans better. And we can look at it from a perspective of human performance or safety or any, a whole heap of different industries. But I suddenly realised that research was really powerful. And I also started to realise that the people who change the world, we never actually really know who they are. We never know their names because they're the researchers that are just working their asses off, and making discoveries. And I thought, well, I want to be part of that. But at the same time, I still have this passion for, people and talking to people. So 2.5 years ago, I started doing the Lifeline training. And like Daryl, it's life-changing, yeah? Like the training itself at Lifeline, if you have an opportunity to do it, I highly recommend it. The training itself is life-changing. You take the training from Lifeline into your everyday. Because you're doing it too, Beck, aren't you? Yes. So, I started to realise, same with Daryl, I was good at it. I was really good at sitting with people's pain and sitting with people with their vulnerabilities. So I'm now at this point where, why can't I do both? So why can't I make a difference from a higher level and continue down the research path, probably in human factors, but still kind of with a clinical focus as well. So but none of that was on the radar on my first day at uni. None of it. It was just the opportunities present themselves and you take them. That's my advice.
And I suppose mine diverges a little bit from your guys' there, where as soon as I kind of realized, I went into first year and I decided to minor in sociology, as it was an option where I was still kind of that path where I wanted to make that societal impact. Not knowing anything about sociology, I was just like, that'll do. Tick the box and started. And I loved every class I did in social movement theory. And then I'd come to my psych classes and going, it's so superficial level of learning. I actually really did not like my first year of psychology at all. I much preferred like getting hands-on and understanding patterns and movement in our society. And I thought that was really quite interesting. And I was it wasn't until second year psych, I stuck with it because I was like, you never know, something might hit. And then in second year, it definitely did, because every course you finally get to dive deep. So it's less just content each week. Instead, it's like, let's go deep into understanding these certain things. Still, obviously, you can go far deeper in what we learn, but it kind of paved the way where it tapped into a little bit more of the research and where the research is coming from and how they actually engage in that research and the methods it takes for them to do that research. And that process is actually really quite interesting. And I think, where am I going with this? Sorry, brain fog, momentary, like, where am I going? But I think really what came out of that was that I can couple in the things I want to make impact with and that policy and those higher up level things and having an understanding. And I think kind of, like Nathan said as well, having a minor in something that's in a different silo, in a different area, allows you to kind of cross-reference some of the information from psychology and see how it can be applied in different ways. And that kind of led me to this environmental psychology of understanding where our societal issues, some of the biggest world problems, how they can actually be solved by looking at individual behavior as well. So I started just asking around. I was really curious to all my lecturers. I'd ask them questions. What led them to academia? What did they like about it? What they didn't like about it? What was the general day-to-day for them? What did it look like? Because if that's something I want to get into, I need to understand. I need to go in not being too naive to be like this glory job and this dream job of these researchers doing these wonderful things, because day-to-day it doesn't look like that. So I really went around asking questions, and I became a student leader as well. So in becoming a student leader in my second year, I finally got to help other students that were in first year, imparting some of the knowledge I was gaining and developing. And in doing so, I'd be talking to students, saying, you should do this, and this is a really good strategy, and going, I should do that myself. Yeah, that'd be really good. And actually helped. So my grades actually improved by becoming a student leader as well. So combining all of that together kind of really solidified that I want to go in research and I want to go into teaching as well. And really the only job there is academia. So I'm just going to have to go full force into that.
Amazing. Amazing.
All right, so kind of following on with that, with like during your time at university and like where you are now, if you had the time to do it all again, is there anything you would change, or would you do it exactly the same, or yeah?
Give me that microphone. I certainly wouldn't do a degree in psychology, I don't think. And I know that's a chuckle, but I think it's probably honest. One of the problems with psychology is that, and we call it a science, but there is a lot of, sorry, I'm just being brutally honest here. Nothing in the world is black and white. Forget dichotomization, of course. However, it's very blurred in psychology. We can all have a lot of different opinions, and there is a lot of subjectiveness in psychology. It can be very frustrating. It's great, it's rewarding, it's wonderful. Sometimes I wish I'd become an engineer. Black and white, black and white. Here's the figures. No, that's not good enough. Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Psychology. What was the question? Would I do something different?
Yeah, would you do anything?
Look, in all honesty, I would do it again, but there is a part of me that would scream out and say, no, don't do that. Go and do engineering. It's black and white. So, yeah, and that's probably more of a reflection on me than anything.
That'd be a personality thing, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I enjoy life. I wouldn't change it. You know, it's led me to where I am now. So, you know, with all the, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got to here. Certainly didn't think 6 years ago I'd be sitting here in front of you guys. But I think it's good. That's the beauty of life. You just sort of enjoy the journey and sort of see where it takes you a bit and see what opportunities come up. So, no, I think I think it was good.
I don't think I'd do anything differently either. I think hindsight always gives you a little bit of perspective where you might, you know, make a few different choices. But coming to university and not really knowing what to expect, I just, like Nathan said, you just follow your nose. Opportunities come up and you just follow them. You ask lots of questions. You know, if I could have, I would have done it full time, because I did drop to part-time, but my life circumstances didn't allow me to do that. So I think if anything, I would probably say I wish I'd done it sooner, but life didn't show up like that, so.
Yeah, and I don't think I would do anything different, but I'm definitely going to try and add on some extra degrees in microbiology, communications, some journalism maybe, like just really left field, like engineering, we'll get in there, like maybe one day, everything piqued my interest and I became really curious, which I think is a good thing. Like at the end of the day, to be curious is always a positive. Maybe not too curious, I suppose there's some things that are not that great to be curious about, but what I want to go back and like go dive deeper into some of the things I found really interesting, especially second year psych in biopsychology. That was just learning about neurons. If I could do all of that again, that would be amazing, and just do a whole degree in that. it has nothing to do with where I want to go with my career. It's just because it's interesting.
Just to add, something that you just made me think, because of just probably what I would change is there's a huge focus on grades in psych. There's no doubt everyone's focused on grades, but sometimes you get caught up in just learning it to pass the exam, or not pass, but to do well. Like, it's more, the knowledge is worth absorbing properly if you have the space to do it. So I think, yeah, there were some courses where I just chased the grade and I went, oh, I didn't actually enjoy that content as well as I could have. Probably that's, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's actually incredibly true. I think I wish that in second year I learnt what I did in third year, where it wasn't about the grades anymore. It was about mastering just the content, and enjoying the content and letting yourself absorb the content, but also what skills am I developing here? Do the task as if it's a skill development opportunity. Focus on it. How can I develop my skills further? And somehow the grades just naturally kind of follow suit. Not always, but a lot of the times they did. And so instead of being obsessed about having the achievement at the end going, I got a HD on this, or I did really well in that, instead look, what did I learn from this? And changing my perspective in third year gave me way better well-being. My mental health improved, and I got to enjoy it so much more. And I wish I did that in second year and first year. But obviously I need to go through that process first. Yeah.
Can relate to that. Okay, I have a fun question. What was the best moment of your degree and the worst moment of your degree? So it could be, who knows, it could be a bad grade, it could be, I don't know, someone in class, I don't know, anything.
I'm just going to...
We also have to feel that question about a bad grade.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got only high achievers here.
Nathan, you could probably cover that one.
Are we done? So I think just from a recency thing for me is the simultaneously the best and worst moment was submitting my thesis. Because I was racing the clock and I was tired and I was done and I just wanted it submitted, but I still wanted to make it perfect. And there was this overwhelming feeling of, holy shit, I've just finished my degree when I hit the submit button, or I finished the thesis. And then there was, like, I could have done more. So, yeah, I'd say it was the best and worst moment of my entire degree at the same time.
Love that.
I think for me, I suppose if we're looking at moments, a specific time, it would definitely be after my graduation. We recorded the graduation ceremony where I did like a talk, and we watched it as a family with Zoom. And my dad and I have a very troubled past, and he was there, and my brother was there, and my two sisters, and we all watched it on Zoom, and they watched me do my speech, and my dad and my brother just broke down in the pride that I actually finally had from them. In doing what I wanted to do, because it was always very past, like, we don't actually care that you're doing uni, like, good for you, whatever. And for them to actually acknowledge the work I did and how hard I worked, that for me was such a moment of like, yeah, I did it. And that, so if we were looking at a specific moment, that would be it. But all in all, it's community. Like the fact that I got to get to know you guys, and I have a few really close friends now, and I seem to know a lot of people, and I know them really well, and it's such a really wonderful experience to have. But worst moment is when I'm like crying, and I've got like a week left to do an assessment, and I honestly think I can't do it, and I'm like breaking down going, I just can't do it, and then like 5 minutes later I go, I know what I need to do, and I just go and do it.
Okay. You never know what's going to happen next, do you? From the guy who wants to be an engineer. No, I'd actually have to say that best moment was the whole of the university experience. It's transcendence. So it's changing who you are to become who you want to be. That's what we do at university. So that process is very special, and I enjoyed all of it. All of it. Looking back on it, amazing. You know, I think that's, for me, that was the best of it, just the lot of it, transcending, becoming somebody different. I probably came to university because there was parts of me that I didn't like, and they're less now. Yay me. Which is always a good thing. And the worst. The worst. Now get ready. I'll probably scare a few people here. Okay, so I can remember second year sitting in here with this being pretty full. And, you know, you do develop you have a cohort, right? You like all the people you're with and you try really hard. I always wanted to be a psychologist. I went into that quite naively, not realising what the actual process was at the end of the day. So, you know, of 1,000 that started in my cohort, 2 of us got into Clin Psych. So it's pretty harsh. And it's a great feeling when you get that phone call and say, yes, you've got an offer. But then when you get there on that first day and you look around, there's 15 people. There was only 8 this year. Last year my year was 15. You look around and you go, well, I only know one other person in this room. You can't help but feel for the cohort. There's a lot of people in that cohort that would have been great psychs, but unfortunately the way the system works to become a Clin Psych, it's very expensive. There's a lot of supervision. It's a lot of time that they have to put in. So it's a very narrow funnel at the end. And I think that the engineering answer, I should have prefaced with, if I knew how narrow the funnel was at the end of a psych degree to get into clinical psych, then I would have chosen engineering. Because it's just, there are 3,000 in this year's cohort, I believe, 3,000 psych students in year 1, first year. And 2 or 3 of them will get into Clin Psych. So it's quite a tight funnel.
At USC, they could get in somewhere else.
Yeah, at USC.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, they can get in somewhere else, but it's quite difficult to get in at other places as well. No. I think Nathan said to me, the best advice I ever got was from my friend Nathan here. He said, if you want it, it'll happen. Just got to keep doing it. If you don't get in this year, you'll get in next year, blah, blah, blah. And that's great advice, Nathan.
Yeah, do you want to?
Oh, come on. Oh, my God. How long have you got? Obviously, my incredible good looks, wit and charm. Let's start there and move on. No.
He badgered everyone until they just said, go.
Yeah. So if anybody was to... One of the things is that everybody knew who I was. I asked a lot of questions. Yeah? So it's really good to be known, but that doesn't guarantee it. It depends on which university you're applying for. However, at USC, the last 2 years, they've used a very quantitative numbers game, yeah? So they look at your thesis marks, they look at your overall grade, you get a mark for that. I think there's about 20 different things, Jonathan Mason said, that they give you a mark on. And then they interviewed 300 for this year. 300 applied, they interviewed about 120. So 120 had a score, 8 get in. The top 8, if you're in there and you're a USC student in the top 8, you're guaranteed to get in. However, if you're outside the top 8, it's not a guarantee. So you have to do really well, and that involves the interview process, your experience. I'd say that one of the most important things is, as a Clin Psych, if you want to get into Clin Psych, you have to be ready to hit the ground. Yeah, you have to be able to go into that interview and say, I believe I've got incredibly good foundational skills. I've done my time at Lifeline. I know I want to work with clients. I'm really keen to get in the room and to extend my learning. Yeah.
I also mentioned that with grades aren't necessarily the trigger that will get you into that top 8 either. So don't sit there and go, what's my grade point average? So don't worry.
So if I didn't make that clear, there is about 20 different things. And I think John Mason said to me at the end of it, it's less than 5. Sorry. So actually getting into Clin Psych, your grades is less than 5 or 10% of that total mark. So there's a lot of other stuff. And you have to be very careful you follow their guidelines exactly how you put that in. So if they say that you need an electronic review or reference from a clinical workplace, that's what you need. You can't hand in a written one, you can't hand in anything else. You have to follow that exactly what they need, because you get 0 points on one of those and you're not going to be in the top 8, top 10, top 20. Okay?
Don't lose hope.
And I was just going to say,
Okay.
obviously,
There are plenty of options to get into other areas as well. ClinPsych is the cream right up the top there, but there are other vocations. It's worthwhile having a look at a whole heap of areas. You know, I mean, I'm not sure if you're in third year or that sort of thing, but you know, the first 2 years are really sort of trying to work out where you want to go with it. You know, what interests you and that sort of thing. So, you know, if you start to understand what you want to do in second year, then you can sort of, you know, start to specialise in that sort of stuff. So what was the question again?
Your best and your worst.
Best and worst. I'm a bit philosophical like Daryl, I think. I really enjoyed the whole thing. I enjoyed the people, you know, text messaging people and going, oh, Jesus, what are we doing here? And, you know, getting up to the line for assessments and that sort of thing. I also went on to go onto a couple of different boards as well, like student boards and student cohorts. So the Guild, the USC Council and a few things like that, and helped a lot of students in sort of giving a voice to some of the policies that weren't going the way I figured they should. So that was good. And doing that allowed me to see a whole different range of opportunities that are out there. So that was excellent, and just the people you meet, all these guys, you know, I mean, gee, which is fantastic. You know, you get to you know, just share the journey together. I don't think I really had any really down parts. I'm sorry. I mean, you know, I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, I also have some businesses, so I work full time, and also I was kind of studying full time. So the workload's a bit much sometimes. You're sort of, you know, midnight, 2 o'clock or whatever. But you know, you just take that with what you do, I guess.
Yep.
Thanks. There you go.
Did you want to add anything, Carmen? Are you okay?
yeah, I'll just add on to the conversation from your question. I think obviously not in clinical, so I don't have the answer there, but I think it's definitely does not go astray learning those networking and reaching out and developing that network, tapping into the resources at USC, have your face known, know who you, like, ask questions, get the most. This is a service that you're paying for, so get the most out of it. Ask the questions if you're not sure. Go and use the resources that are available, the support systems. And if you're really unsure, even careers and employability are so good to talk to, going, what other options are there that's not just clinical, so I can have plan B, C, and D just in case. And you can still have such a fulfilling career doing and helping people, doing the things that you do that led you to this degree. So it's not the end all and be all. That's all I just wanted to add.
All right, so probably one of the most cliche questions ever, but a relevant one. So you could give anyone in their undergrad degree some advice. What would it be?
You've covered a lot.
I think that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, you've covered a lot, but what's like the one thing?
Your former self.
Yeah.
Third year, second year self.
And even if it's as simple as get some more sleep.
I've got a couple. I can go. First one, self-compassion. Be nice to yourself. Schedule. You know, we all talk about organization and time management, but we underestimate the me time. Just for you, not socializing with other people, not being with your partner, just you. Your ability to be present, whether that looks like you going mountain biking or going for a walk or spending time just with your dog or my 75 plus plants. Something that is for you.
I have 80 plants.
You have how many?
80.
Oh, I need some more. It's my birthday on Friday. That's what I'm getting for my birthday. More plants. Something that's just for you, I think is really important for your mental well-being all the way through. Obviously, that goes hand in hand with two other things, the time management, scheduling a flexible weekly as well as monthly, as well as backtracking your assessments. Having a combination of all of those keeps you on track. It stops you from procrastinating because you just don't have time to procrastinate, so to speak. And boundary setting. That's a harsh lesson I learned really early on, is I would say yes to a lot of things and then can't deliver. And one thing is that makes me feel like crap. And secondly, I'm letting down other people around me. And so learning how to say no is okay. And that's all right too, because opportunities are going to start flying at you and they're really awesome. It's we just need to learn which ones to choose and which ones to kind of go, I need to step away from that. And I'm still learning that, so, you know, it's progress.
So the plant thing, I actually had never owned a plant in my life until I started studying. And now I have, like, my kids joke that we live in a jungle because that was my self-care. If I couldn't do anything else, I would buy myself a plant every week and just sit amongst them. It's weird, but plants or whatever works for you, but do it. My next tip would be stay in your own lane. Forget what everyone else is doing. It is so easy to compare your grades with other people. Don't. I know someone who had a 5.5, got into honours, got first class, did clinical. She's one of the best clinical psychs I know. She's amazing. But her first 3 years were a bit up and down. So forget what everyone else is doing and stay in your own lane and do what you need to do to get where you need to go. Last one, opportunities are everywhere at university. Talk to people. If an opportunity presents, you don't have to take every single opportunity that comes up, but at least look at it. At least look at it, and if you can get involved with the community of USC, then do it.
That was great. Yeah, and I definitely agree with Nicole. So a grade doesn't define who you are. You're going to get good and bad grades, except him. But it doesn't define who you are. So just keep plugging at it, and enjoy the experience. You know, it's not. It's only as hard as what you think it's going to be. So it's also as easy as what you think it's going to be as well. So you can sort of, it is a mindset thing. So I think, if don't define yourself by the grades that you get, as opposed to how you're learning and how you're progressing. And don't feel as though, even if you've got this set idea of what you want to achieve and it starts going off in a different direction, don't sort of be harsh on yourself either. You know, keep open to possibilities. That would, yeah.
What advice would I give? I think everything you study in psychology has already been described in philosophy. So for me, and there is not a huge focus on philosophy in the psychology degree. So yeah, I think it's really good to have a bit of a base in philosophy. And the other bit of advice, I really liked what you said there about staying in your own lane. And I always describe that as having some skin in the game. Yeah, care about something, whether you're doing your honours or your master's thesis, it's a heck of a lot easier if it's got you in it. Yeah? That's what I would go along with for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. So we'll wrap it up there for our pre-selected questions because we want to leave some time for people to ask their own personal questions in case we haven't covered it. And we've also got a few more tailored questions for you guys. So I'll just pass over the mic to Josiah and he's just going to manage. So if you guys have any questions, put your hand up and he can come take the mic to you.
So does anyone actually have any questions? All right, sweet. Just give us your name and then...
Thank you. So I'm first year. And I just have a question about what kind of, because personally, I'm a little bit afraid to jump into things like Lifeline, because I'm like, what if I'm not prepared? And what if I'm in a situation where it affects my mental health because I know some of these things can be quite heavy. Is there any advice into should I be scared? Should I just do it?
Lifeline, the training for Lifeline is very thorough. And it's you are well, by the time you get on the phones, you're well equipped and you're well supported. So you're never actually alone on the phones. There's always someone at the other end of a message thing that can get on and listen and help guide you through a call. You get some pretty hectic calls, but if you want to work as a psychologist, you're going to have to deal with people. So Lifeline's a really structured environment to be able to introduce you to that if you've not done work with people before. I would say whenever I had my name down with Lifeline for years, and every time it came up for the training, I wasn't ready for it. So I just kept going, no, can you put me on the list for next time? And like that happened a lot. Like even before I started my degree, I had my name down for Lifeline. Then there was just this one moment where I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this now. And I think, so I've been doing it 2.5 years, so I must have been in second year maybe when I started. So it was just timing for me. So I think you'll know. But there are other opportunities as well. There's a lot of these guys have worked in disability support services. You can run, there's quite a few students that run groups with ASD kids through different private practices and things like that. So it doesn't have to be Lifeline. But yeah, I would say when you're ready to do some of that interaction with people, then just find an opportunity and go for it.
Well, I just want to add a couple of things because that's me. Firstly, well done, because, that's the sort of self-awareness and the sort of statement that we all like to hear. Yeah, it's not about, you can't fail it. You can't fail being a clin psych. You can't, you acknowledging that you are susceptible to what we'd call compassion burnout. It's great. Fantastic, that's a big tick there, and then we go, okay, so what strategies are we going to put in place? What works for you? And then we move forward, yeah? So it's not about being tough or being this or being that, yeah? We all have different levels of emotional empathy, and sometimes it's about understanding and being aware of your emotional empathy and bringing out more of your rational empathy. But that's a great question and great awareness, and my answer to you would be the sooner you get in there and start, the sooner you'll be able to build the coping mechanisms that you need, or the self-compassion that you need to be able to tell, because it's not about how long I can go, it's about how aware I am I'm burning out. For instance, if I was working in first year in the Thompson Institute and I went to my supervisor and said, look, I feel I'm burning out a little bit, can we slow down the client load for a week or two? They would say, yeah, of course, well done. So that's how it works in psychology.
Cool. Anyone else have any questions? Yeah, awesome.
Hi, my name's Tess, and I'm a third-year student. I just wondered, how do you navigate those grey areas in psych? Like, how do you trust your gut, your instinct to navigate those areas where it's not black and white, because it is easy when it is black and white. So yeah, just how do you trust yourself to navigate that, if that makes sense?
Okay, I've got the mic. Thank you. Excellent. Is that particularly to do with the content or with where you want to go from third year?
Probably both.
Okay.
But more like practicing, I guess, is how do you back yourself up to, I don't know, navigate certain situations that aren't black and white and very, that grey area, I guess.
No worries. I'll answer that on a research perspective. Research is fundamentally looking into something that no one knows the answer to. and then, setting, doing some testing and interpreting the data. So it is always a grey area. So I talked to my wife about this a little while ago. There is no perfect research paper, ever. But it is a matter of looking at the research and seeing what patterns are in the research that you can then sort of formulate from there. With regards to confidence, have the confidence behind what research you know of and what research you do, because it's actually it's a bit of an art form to do research. And you could do research and find 6 papers on one specific area, and someone could find 6 papers on another specific area, and both of you can be right. So you sort of got to be a bit comfortable in the grey area, and then just go, well, this is what I found as a result of that. In terms of moving from, so in third year, I found that I would look at the research, I would then determine the area that I felt or thought based on the research was the most appropriate, and then I would set my argument from there and either back it up or not back it up based on that. But I would point in a direction based on what I know. And my direction is different to Daryl's, it's different to everyone else's. And they're not marking you as much on the direction as they are on how well you formulate the result of that direction that you're going in. So that's also a matter of practice. So then going on to where do you go from your direction from third year onwards? I guess, yeah, there are so many different directions that you can go in. Based on what Carmen was talking about in terms of the pathways, career pathways and that sort of thing would be a good start to have a look at. If you're interested in research, look for an area that you like. I just happened on my area of research that I was really interested in, so I thought I'll send an email off to the professor for TI at Thompson Institute, and we would go from there. And that was in second year, and we talked for about almost 3 years before I got to the point where I could do my PhD or master's at the time, before we sort of solidified what it is that I wanted to do in that research. So it's a matter of just looking for something that you do enjoy, and then finding the people that have the similar interest in USC, and then talking to them. So those are sort of the two edges. Does that help a little bit?
I was just going to add something quickly to that. I remember in second year, coming out of a lot of my subjects going, I have an unhealthy dose of confidence in the information I was sharing with other people. And I know this stuff, right? Like, oh, look, that's all the stuff I learned. And then I got to third year and went, yeah, we don't know anything. And then people would ask me questions, go, oh, you're a third year psych student. Like, what do you think about this? I'm like, my answer every time was, it's complex. Because it is gray. And I think that's okay for us to have answers like that sometimes. We don't need to have all the answers. And I think it shows to be confident with that uncertainty and confident with that it is a complex situation and there's so many contributing factors. And like Nathan was saying, research is just looking at all of the complexity out there and pinpointing a little element. And that's why we're seeing such gray areas, because we're constantly searching for those variables that aren't accounted for understanding how things contribute to other things and the knock-on effects, right? And I think that's what's super interesting about research, but it does produce this really answer. It depends. It's like, oh, well, it depends. And I think that's okay, and you're allowed to be okay with that. And I think we just need to it's complex is sometimes the answer.
And if I can just provide a simple response that encompasses all of that, is whether it's research or practice, in my opinion, the way to manage those grey areas is to stay curious.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, it's always staying the question of what else. And I think that's how you can manage those grey areas in research or in practice.
I know I'm not on the panel, but also supervision. Speak to someone. I'll just add that in right now. All right, I'm going to pass the mic back because I think we've got some more.
Do we have any more questions? You guys all right? Yourself, Liam? All right, cool.
You guys are here, and I'm super grateful. I'm not going to miss my chance. So I want to eventually get into more like relationship / sex therapy kind of work. But I don't know if I should do a double degree. So now I'm in just like a psych honors degree. But what would you guys think if I should do like a counseling and a psych degree? I don't know.
Nah.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, stay with just the psychology if you're going to go into clinical, and then once you've done your clinical, you can then branch out into the specific area that you want. So a lot of so you're in first year, so parts of second year and a lot of third year, you can then start incorporating some of the research that you want to do into sex therapy or relationships, that sort of stuff. So you can start, looking at using that as your focus when you're doing your psychology degree. And then I would start looking at, finding people on the Sunshine Coast that already do that you can then learn from as well. And within USC, I think there are someone, yeah.
I was just going to say there is, I know of one person that wanted to do sex therapy. So I think in clinical psych, and you might have to check this up, but that was something I'd have to do, specialise under a sex therapist, yeah? And I think there are some really, some different regulations around that. So but if you want to work with relationships, you can be a general psych or a counsellor or a clinical psych. And you can apply, the difference is general psychs are guided by level 1, APS level 1 treatments, which is multiple randomised control trials, so that shows the efficacy of the therapy that you use. Clin psychs can, and this is perhaps what your question was a little bit about when you go into the grey. So a clin psych can use different therapies, he can combine modalities. He's still guided by the literature and has to back up his own competency and have the efficacy there in the literature why you're using this technique. So it's not, I just can't do any crazy therapy I want, but I can combine therapies, modalities, certainly, to produce an effect, but I have to be able to justify that, and I have to show that I have the competencies to use those therapies. I'll put you in touch with somebody who's doing the same and could give you some advice.
Yeah, and I was just going to add just quickly to that with what Nathan was saying around don't worry about so much right now in your undergrad. It's like that foundation, right? So you don't need to jump the gun to get to your career choice in day one. Get the foundations and apply. You can start applying in second and third year. Start applying the different things that we're learning into that lens around that sex relationship part. And when it gets to your honors, if there isn't someone here at USC that can do it, but there's so many researchers that have avenues where it can be applied elsewhere. So for instance, my research, there's not one person at USC that does what I want to do. So what I had to do is create a supervisory panel of people that all have snippets of part of it and how it can be applied. So getting to know your lecturers and the different researchers early on is a really good way to understand what they're doing in the research that they're doing and how it could be applied in different ways. And so when it gets to your honors, you can go and approach them and talk to them and go, this is what I would like to do, and I can see that you do health, for example, in behavior. I want to see how that could be applied in this way. And that's a good way. So you don't need to have this research group that's pre-existing, that's already doing, and you have to focus into that. you can do what you want. That's what I ended up doing, and I found my own research group based off of having a network of people that I already knew, understanding what they're doing and meeting with them.
Awesome. Oh, we've got some more questions there. I'll just do a check-in, guys. I know we have hit time. Are you okay to keep answering a few more questions? Okay, you just let us know if you're ready to wrap up. Okay, we'll do a few more, and then we've got one tailored question for each of you guys.
All right. Firstly, I just wanted to thank you all for your time tonight. It really does mean a lot to me personally, and I'm sure everyone who's tuning in. My question is based from sort of what you touched on earlier, Daryl. Psychology heavily employs the scientist practitioner model. As we all know, a lot of psychology and mental behaviour can't be explained from science. So for me personally, that's an internal conflict. So I wanted to ask, how do you, each of you personally, deal, explain, or compartmentalise this clash or conflict?
Could you state that again? You said that a lot of human behaviour can't be explained?
Well, a lot of, say, like if you look deep enough as, say, like if we were to go Freudian and talk about the unconscious or dreams, there's a lot that can't be explained. And we might have simple cause and effects, like when we look at behaviorism. Like obviously this is very fun, rudimentary, but yeah, internally, like, yeah, that is something I often wonder. And then, yeah, I wonder what people that get further along, whether you've come up with an answer.
I've got an answer to that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. That's the juicy stuff. That's, if you don't know that, that's great. That's what drives me. Is the more I know, the more I realise I don't know. You know, so I mean, I'm in a very small sort of boutique sort of area, and I read every day on my particular topic, and I'm blown away every day by the stuff that I didn't know. So I like that. So I like that unknown. So that keeps driving me, because it keeps driving me to want to know more. But that's mainly on the research side of things, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I feel that way as well. But when you mentioned it, Daryl, how do you justify it to yourself when you're sort of sitting with a client? You know, it's when you're researching, you might uncover the next thing, but then you're dealing with someone and they're going through some things that you're trying to help them with. And you know in the back of your mind, you're like, there's so much I can't explain with this model that I've...
Yeah, I think it's a great question. If I thought back to first, second, third year psychology or honours, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even the first year of working with clients, you know, it's a common experience to come out and look at your supervisor and go, I have no idea. Can you help me help? You know, like really. I remember just speaking to some of the cohort behind me, and they were saying, I got my first 3 diagnoses wrong, you know, totally wrong. So what you're talking about, and when Nathan was talking about the research there, I was just listening and applying it to what it's like in the room there with a client. And yeah, it's true that there is this huge grey area and this unknown, and that unknown is wonderful. As a clinical psych, what I deal with when I come into the room is we have known factors, like an external stressor, a life event, something's happened. And then we have the phenomenological experience of the individual. And that is a black box flight recorder, yeah? The way you all interpret something differently from how I will interpret it. And that is a product of your genetics and everything that's happened to you in your life up until this point. And the process is not about me being able to say, blah, 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 this is your problem. The process is, gee whiz, what a fantastic black box. Let's crack this open and see what we can learn. Yeah? Yeah, so it's really understanding that. But I can tell you that as you develop your therapeutic style, you'll gravitate to certain therapies, certain modalities. So for me, it was ACT because it has more of that existential and, you know, it comes from that Eastern philosophies from Buddhism and that sort of thing, you know. And then also, for me, it's schema therapy. So the black box to me is your internal working models from childhood. And of course, those are affected greatly by your nature, your genetics, and your nurture, the epigenetic changes that occur through the interactions that you have. And a lot of what I do is just to acknowledge that that is there, and then let's decipher that. And so the theories that you learn in psychology are incredibly useful, but when you move on to clinical work, there are a whole range of new theories that come in and help you. The one that is probably one of the most, like one of the tips, what we said, what were the tips we could give to students studying? If you do want to go on to be a therapist, study attachment theory. So John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, and then read that book, Attached, I think it's called. Everybody should read that. If you haven't read it by the time you finish your degree, you'll need to read it as soon as you start working as a psych. So just understanding those attachment styles and what they mean, because I can guarantee you just about everybody who's doing psychology will have either an anxious or an avoidant attachment style. All the secure attached children, they went on to become engineers.
That was gold.
So true. And we had another question from Tess. Did you want to
That last one was great. I don't know if this is relevant for you guys, but I'm really interested in health psychology. So I really want to look at health psychology. But I'm trying to figure out whether I should go the clinical route first and sort of, I guess, gain experience because I don't really have any in undergrad. And then sort of try and branch off into health psych or just go straight to Masters of Health Psych if possible.
Which I think there's only two.
Yes, only two in Australia. Yep. So, but I guess that clinical way, I thought maybe it's better to gain more experience. I guess health psych is just such a long pathway to get to because you really need a PhD to like specialize. So, yeah, I don't know if you know anyone who's in that field.
Yeah, I was just going to say Jacob Keach would be the best one to speak to.
Yep.
If
Mhm.
you have connections and people,
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
But you don't have to do the health psych pathway. You don't have to do the health psych pathway to practice health psychology. You can be a clinical psychologist and your area is health psychology. It just depends on what it is you want, where you want to go with it. But yeah, Jacob is...
Yeah, so like at the end of this year, I will have done my 2 years clinical masters. That will qualify me as a general psych. I'll get registration as a general psychologist and I'll then be a registrar. So I have to do 2 years of supervision. Now I can choose to maybe go and specialise in somewhere that they're doing health psych. One of the courses, one of the courses, and that's where you would maybe do your 2 years registrar in sex therapy. Just finding that spot to do that.
Like being clinical, but
Clinical, yeah. So clinical is like it's a doorway to a lot of different areas. That's one of the reasons we do it.
So maybe that's an advantage of
Yeah.
going the clinical way.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of going that clinical way.
Cool. How's everyone else feeling? We're all good? Perfect. Yeah, man. Throw back to Rebecca.
So we've got a question for each person on the panel today, and then we can bring it to a close in case unless we have any pressing questions come through. I just wanted to start by asking a personal question to Carmen. So Carmen, in your blurb, you mentioned the research program that you're coordinating. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Cool. All right. So it's very exciting for anyone that's interested in research. It's not just for psychology. So it's a new program we're piloting it this year to be escalated for years to come. And basically, it's a fellowship, it's a scholarship of $1,000 where you get paired with an academic on their ongoing projects, not just as a research assistant, but to be mentored in skill development. And it's a short-term project, so they span between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on each project, because each project will have unique timelines and durations and pinpoints. And it's not just one task that you're doing. So as you go into the project, you'll be doing multiple tasks to get a reality of what it looks like to do real research, and that they're not just these short-term little assessments that we always get. And secondly, it mimics all of the terminology and the processes of a research experience for research students as a HDR. So you go through milestones, you have to do progress reviews, and you do a little final thing, but each milestone is a contributor to a payment of the scholarship. So it's like you're getting little mini payments all the way through to supplement the time and commitment that it takes to do it. These projects are going to be every 3 months, so there'll be different rounds, so it's continuous, so it's not like if you miss one boat, there'll be more to come. So we're just developing the logistics and the systems in place right now. That's what my new job is, to basically create it and what it looks like so that you guys enjoy it. And it's across the entire university, so even courses that are not normally research focused can be involved, which is really quite cool. So hopefully by September, projects will be going online for the first round for this year. And you have the opportunity in these projects when you're going to be working with these academics for potential for co-authorship, potential for presenting at conferences, and you are automatically have the potential to, whatever you do, even if it doesn't end up in something with the academic, but you can present it at the Australasian Council for Undergraduate Research Conference, for undergraduate research, which is a kind of Australia, Asian, Pacific, and if you happen to win in that, then you go to the world one. So it's a really, really, really cool thing that I am so excited that I am the very lucky person that gets to develop what it looks like, which is quite phenomenal that they're just giving me free rein on this. Like, I'm gonna make a milestone, boop, boop, boop. But it's a really, it's something I wish was in existence when I started, because I knew I wanted to go into research. And having the opportunity to dip your toes in and have a test run after first year. So the only thing is you have to do your first year, have a certain amount of credits done. So for you going into second year, perfect time. Watch that space, because you could probably do something in sex therapy.
So all of these things that we were talking about getting experience throughout your degree, that sounds like something that would be great for undergraduates to be looking into. So Carmen, are you happy for people to contact you about that if they're interested and they've...
I've got
oh, yes, sorry.
If you just do undergradresearch@usc.edu.au is our email. It's just been set up so I can respond to them now. Yay!
Amazing. Thank you. Alrighty, well, we'll just ask now, Nathan, your research with your PhD project, can you tell us a little bit more about that and the implications of that research? It sounds fascinating.
Okay, thank you. So there's a study going on at the Thompson Institute at the moment, which is using sub-anaesthetic ketamine as a means to help PTSD sufferers. So it's quite a complicated study, but it is a world first study that's happening. It's a 6-week intervention of ketamine, and what we've found is that ketamine in mouse models have actually helped to extinguish fear-based memories come up. And has also helped reduce this fight and flight sort of response for mice. So we are looking at how that transposes on into the human brain and that sort of thing. It's been going for about a year and a half. My little part of that is a research on epigenetics. So it's to do with looking at how ketamine changes your epigenetics within your neurons to change the neurotransmitters that are in there in order to be able to extinguish those flashbacks and to reduce those fear memories. So the purpose behind that is to look at, well, the end of my PhD will be to develop a pharmacogenomic profile that I can then take a piece of blood from someone who is a PTSD sufferer and determine whether or not ketamine is going to actually help them. So that then leads on to looking at personalised medicine for mental illness. So that's my ultimate goal there. It's a lot of details in there, but no, it's good. It's good, good fun. It's a lot of looking into the unknown.
Fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. That was my question. I was like, I just want to know a bit more about that. Nicole, so we'll go to you now. How did you find completing honours? What was it like for you?
I'm not going to lie, I actually really enjoyed honours. But I set myself up for that, in that, for me personally, I working in the research centre, I chose to do a project that probably wasn't really my passion. I'm interested in stress and how stress affects people, so we kind of put that in there somewhere, but I was looking at train driver performance or perceptions of the impacts of stress on train driver performance from a systems perspective. So, you know, it's not really groundbreaking in regards to, you know, helping individuals with personal crisis, which is what I would actually really like to focus on. But my two bosses were my supervisors. I already had a great relationship with them. So I enjoyed it. I was really well supported. I quite purposely put myself in a situation where honours was going to be an enjoyable experience. That's not to say it wasn't hard, because it was. Like, you know, the last 2 weeks particularly, I was pulling 16-hour days and just getting, and my desk at home is by the front door, so I was getting Uber Eats delivered. And the kids were feeding themselves. I left my desk to go to the bathroom and sleep. That was it, you know. So yeah, it was hard. There's no, you can't avoid that stuff, I don't think. But I enjoyed the experience because I made sure I had supervisors that were supporting me. And I think that's probably amazing. Yeah.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
And Daryl, we'll finish up with you. Come on, take us home, Daryl. So, Daryl, what has clinical masters been like for you? Was it what you expected? How have you managed balancing the thesis you're doing and your clinical practice? And just tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. So the question is, what's clinical masters?
Yeah,
like?
how's it been like for you?
Okay, so super well supported. That's what I wanted to say first, yeah? When you get into clinical masters, it's no longer a competition, which is the lovely thing. You're no longer trying to get a higher grade than the guy next to you. It's pass-fail. Pass-fail. What the heck is that? 70% is a pass, yeah? So you don't have to get 98s anymore, or 95s or whatever. So it's a very, very steep learning curve, and it hurts. Do you know who Sisyphus is? He was a guy that was, one of the gods, Zeus, I think, made him push a rock up and down a hill, yeah? And every time he got the rock to the top of the hill, he'd let it go, and then you'd go back down. So you become Sisyphus. But here's the bad news. As you're pushing that rock up the hill, there's a couple of supervisors saying, hey, that's not the way you push a rock, mate. Let it go and start again. So you generally do that. But they're nice supervisors, yeah? And they'll say, use it like this, push that way. We all burn out. You have to rely on each other. You develop a very strong cohort. You rely on each other. We all burn out to some degree. That's normal. It's how you then deal with it, yeah? How you then deal with it, understanding and dealing with it. As far as the master's thesis, it's nothing. It's like you're so clever. Once you've done honours, you're so good. You can just bang out a research paper anytime you want, you know. Couple of days, there's the review done. It is a smaller project. It's tighter. You get a lot more help. The person who's, you know, the person that you're working with generally is really knows their subject very well and will give you a lot of help and guidance. So, and it's usually one of your supervisors, your clinical supervisors. So clinical masters is simultaneously the worst and best experience of your life. And I don't know any person that's done clinical masters that doesn't describe it the same way. Yeah? Such a powerful growth experience, but so painful. But a wonderful thing, a wonderful challenge, well supported, so many things that you have to do. You can't believe how much you're doing. Like, honestly, the amount of writing and working you have to do. And then the second year of clinical, so that's the first year. The first year is very steep learning curve. Second year, it gets kind of nice. You do your placements, you're given more freedom, you see different supervisors, you have external placements, you do all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I love clinical masters, but I would think that's an accurate description, the best and worst experience of your life all rolled into one. So a really powerful growth experience. Yeah, as far as writing the masters, that doesn't seem to be too hard. Again, that's not graded, you just need to pass. But you do need to pass to become a psychologist. You can't not pass. It will hold them up giving you your registration.
I just want to add one more thing, just because I keep forgetting about this, but as far as my experience of honours goes, when I say that my research isn't groundbreaking, it still mattered, just so you know. But if this is the advantage of having a really good supervisor who is also a mentor. My supervisor put my abstract forward for an industry conference, and we flew to Melbourne, and my research was presented at an industry conference before I'd even analysed the data. So that was a wild ride, but it was a great experience, you know. And at the last minute, I chickened out and said, "Can you present it?" But only because the room was full of industry experts, and you know, I just thought, "You do it." So, but those kinds of, this is what I'm talking about, opportunities and things like that. Just grasp them. And I think, you know, it was like, "Oh, Nicole, do you want to do this?" "Oh, it was like 5 weeks before my thesis was due, and I'm like, can I really afford to take 3 days out of? I just have to. I had to do it. I couldn't not.
It's amazing. Wow, thank you so much, guys. You know, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming. We selected each of you specifically based on your diverse experiences, and I know the students here today and the ones watching on Zoom and the ones that will watch it in a few weeks' time really will value all your insights and advice. And we do have a little thank you present for you guys for coming from the USC Psych Club. You know, we really value your time, and yeah, thank you so much. We'll leave it there because we've ran over, so I can just understand that you guys want to head off, but thanks so much for coming. And yeah.